see. All right. Everybody is coming in, so warm welcome to this celebration and collaboration event today. And my name is Johanna Liipola. I'm from Turku University of Applied Sciences, and I'm one of your guides today.
And my name is Inka Mäkelä. I'm also from Turku University of Applied Sciences, and it's very nice to see you here. Also, welcome to the online audience. Nice to have you here as well.
Inka, you are actually the person who invited us to come here today. So tell us why we are here today.
Well, we are celebrating 10th anniversary of Telaketju, the Finnish textile network around circularity. And
10 years!
Actually, I have been there since the very beginning. So when we had the first truckload of collected post-consumer textiles that Southwest Finland Waste Management Company had collected from the area, I was there when it emptied, and then we started sorting from there, and that was kind of like the beginning of all kind of experiments on sorting and collecting and treating the textiles and how to make this collaboration happen. So it was very interesting time. And actually one of our speakers is Pirjo Heikkilä, who has also been here since the beginning, and she's gonna tell us a little bit more about that journey after the break.
So why I am here is that I'm presenting the collaboration. I have been actually admired your work from a little bit far away, but I have been in 10 years in circular economy as well, concentrating more of the areas circularity and also working between the cities. And my role is today as the latest Telaketju project, Baltic Secondhand, and my colleague from Laurea, Salla Kuuluvainen, will actually tell us more about the project when we go on. So it has been really nice to be in this humble, I'm really humbled to be this great team in continuity of 10 years.
And actually our speakers will offer a diverse perspective to textile circularity. Now I will show you the program. So our first speaker will be Pinja Perholehto, member of the Finnish Parliament, and she will present the policy perspective of the textile sector. Please welcome Pinja.
Maybe it's on now. Thank you. I will go to stand behind the table because it's always safer to stand behind it instead of standing in front of it. First of all, a warm thank you for inviting me here. It is a pleasure to join you all today. As mentioned, my name is Pinja and I'm a member of the Finnish Parliament, and I also do sit in the Environmental Committee and work as a Vice President for it. I'm very happy to have a chance to speak to you today. I have chosen few things to mention especially, and I hope that you will find something new, or at least hear something new about how we in the Parliament are probably right now looking at the whole circular economy, but especially it within textile industry. But to begin with, a few months ago, I met a young Finnish designer. She collects discarded jeans and turns them into new jackets. And she didn't only sell me a jacket, but she also told me a story about every stitch. Every stitch she makes is a protest against waste and a statement for a world that lasts. And that was something that caught my attention because many of us, all here in this room, but also around Finland, already have everyday practices that belong to circular economy. And I believe that each of these choices matter, because step by step and act by act, how you have many witnessed over the last 10 years at least, are building a change. I am very proud of the Finnish textile industry, which is moving toward circularity by extending product life cycles, using both new and recycled materials, improving material and resource efficiency, and creating smarter recycling systems. I think that Finnish companies are actively developing repair and maintenance services. They're reusing models, sharing platforms, and products as a service concepts. But sometimes we, especially we as politicians, don't even realize how much actually innovation already exists in digital solutions, computer vision, and, for example, optical recognition technologies that keep materials in circulation. And therefore, I want to say that it is very, very inspiring that we already have so many real success stories. For example, I will mention four. Infinited Fiber company. That was something my husband actually told me about. I didn't even know it before. But they're turning waste into new fibers for high quality clothes. And then Pure Waste, that was a company my sister mentioned, makes new garments entirely from recycled materials without using a single gram of a virgin cotton. And Clope Hope, that was something my grandmother mentioned. It has been pioneered probably in over 20 years here in Finland, proving that design and responsibility can definitely go hand in hand. And then, of course, today, Telaketju, it is something that has shown us during the last 10 years that there are a lot of things that are actually going to precisely right way already. But sometimes, as I told you, we in the parliament probably should have even more and more discussion with the universities, with the companies, with researchers, so that we would already also gain the knowledge about it. But these and many other examples show that the Finnish innovations attract also international attention. But why does circulating textiles really matters? Why is it so important, not only for a nation, for its economy, but also for the future? And I believe that you all here in this room, but also probably you who are following it online, already know the statistics. You know that the industry is among the biggest polluters in the world. You probably also know that the industry consumes vast amount of water, uses, at least somewhere in the world, still very harmful chemicals, and generates mountains of waste. Yet I do not want to see only problems. I want to see opportunities, opportunities to evolve, to take steps forward instead of clinging to the old. Recycling, reuse, and reinventing value chains are not just options. They are necessities, and hopefully many consumers will value them too. But we already see that the consumer attitudes have already changed. Finland ranks, if I remember right, second in Europe when it comes to second-hand clothing market, right after Poland. We have very vibrant culture of thrifting. We have clothing rental services, both offline and online. But at the same time, we still lag behind in other areas of circular economy. But the good news, we know how to build world-class systems. If nothing else, I will always keep telling my colleagues here in Finland, but also abroad, that our bottle return system is one of the best examples. It started actually before I was even born, was improved step by step, and today it achieves return rate of just over 90%, among the highest in the whole world. I'm not saying we should copy it to the textile industry, and actually we couldn't even do so, but I'm saying that this is a perfect reminder for all of us what we can achieve when everyone, the society, the business and citizens all commit to the same shared goal. And of course, the road to success wasn't so easy. I'm sure some of you here in the room will probably remember even better than I do the pumps, the resistance, the trial, and also the error. But yet, we got here and we can do it again. But now I will move to the main part of the speech, because I will mention 4 things I think we need to tackle and overcome in order to give the circular economy a better place to thrive. So first, there are still quite huge cultural and mindset barriers. The average Finnish kid has more than 200 toys. More than 200 toys. When something breaks, it is often thrown away rather than repaired. One Christmas, I was sitting at the Christmas table and was kind of shocked when I saw a college shirt with electronic parts that made reindeer's eyes blink. And all I could do was wonder. I was wondering why. But actually, the answer is quite simple. It's because we have learned to consume more than we need, and these habits will follow us to the adulthood. Second, circular innovations don't always attract consumers. People may demand sustainability in the market, but in tough times, price often matters more. And that is why I believe we need to reassess, we must rethink, for example, taxation, funding models, and in general, incentives for circular businesses. If a circular product costs more, it must also feel desirable, accessible, well-designed, and genuinely real choice for the customer. And third, I also believe, and I'm a bit scared to mention this here, that we still lack some of the skills and tools needed to make circularity thrive. And by this, I mean that the journey of a broken garment back into raw material for a new textile product is long. It's sometimes as long as a dark, as cold Finnish winter. But the current recycling methods work only for certain materials, and Finland still lacks the large-scale spinning industry needed to turn recovered fibers into new yarn. So my message is that we do need new design methods, new business models, and also the ability to handle textile waste in ways that create value rather than destroy it. And I also know that it won't happen by a change. It requires, for example, targeted investments. It requires new business models, but also, and this is very important from my point of view, it requires political courage to ensure that the skills, research, and also industrial capacity grow hand in hand with the innovation. Because too often, especially in public and political discussions, the conversation is narrowed to clothing alone, even though textiles, they're everywhere, they surround us. In every places, in furniture, for example, insulation materials, and even hygiene products. And maybe a few weeks ago, I read a great article about how across especially Central Europe, the automotive sector has already become one of the most significant users of recycled textiles. And I believe that there is still enormous potential, untapped potential in sharing knowledge, like you're all doing today here, learning from one another, finding solutions, and also scaling innovation together within Finland, across the Nordic region, but also beyond. And this brings me to the fourth major challenge, which is that the competition isn't fair. Crossing borders is essential not only for cooperation, but also because the market is global. And I believe none of us here in the room has failed to notice how ultra-fast fashion has flooded the market. Chinese platforms such as Temu or Shein are expanding very, very aggressively in Finland, but also largely in the European Union. Last year, you probably know this all, but more than 28 million packages worth under 150 euros arrived in Finland, almost 98% of those from China. And that represented a 678% increase only in a single year, reducing the income for Finnish companies and undermining also the fair competition. And the number of parcels arriving this year is still expected to rise, reaching or even surpassing the 50 million mark. 50 million parcels from mostly China. And we all know that these products are cheap, but we do know very little about their quality, safety, or environmental impact. And I'm still a bit afraid of that not many consumers think about what this phenomenon actually means. Where the money goes, how little of it stays here in Finland, and what the real environmental cost of, for example, air freight is. And meanwhile, Finnish and European companies pay recycling and environmental fees. They comply with quite strict regulations and take full responsibility for their products. So the competition is not only unfair, but it is also very unsustainable. So that is why actually my main message today is that yes, we do need to act nationally, but no, we cannot secure a just and green transition without also taking action on the EU level. We need to end, for example, the duty-free threshold. We need to strengthen market surveillance, and we also need to extend environmental fees to foreign online retailers. Because I believe the same rules must apply to everyone. And I also know that you will hear more about the EU regulation and the upcoming packages later on today, hopefully. But dear guests, this afternoon, I also know that you're going to dive deep into textile recycling, reusing, value chain development, international cooperation, and so on and so on. And I believe that that is a very important topic for us all. We already know that Finland can definitely deliver when it decides to, when we all commit to the same goal as I mentioned. So instead of ending with the statement, I would like to close with a question. And the question is that when you look back 10 years from now, what will you be celebrating then? 10 years from now, what is the thing you will be celebrating then? Because I really hope that we will be able to say that the textile, recycling and reuse are part of everyday life in Finland, that our value chains have been rebuilt, and that through international cooperation we have also become bigger than our size. Because every transformation, no matter how ambitious, starts with conviction. The conviction that something better is possible, that we can do things differently, and that progress means producing smarter, not always producing more. I hope and I promise to act by my side for that all decision makers see the potential that lies in the circular textile industry and use all the tools available to support you and the shift in mindset that chooses courage over convenience. Thank you all for your time, and I wish you very, very interesting and productive seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Pinja. Very good points, and I'm sure that we are actually talking about some of them this seminar, and then we wish from you the political courage to stand up for us. We have time for a few questions if the audience has, but before that I'd like to ask you, since I started from the waste side of the textile circularity, and we started collecting textiles 10 years ago in the southwest Finland, but now it's like nationwide, and even before the EU required that. Have you been able to be proud of that?
Well, personally, the answer is quite simple, and I can say yes, but as I actually mentioned for you before we began today, sometimes we as Finns are somehow a bit shy about what we're doing, and especially if I travel abroad, we should be more proud of it. So the very honest answer is no, even though probably I should have done so.
Maybe in the future. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from audience? Yes, Johanna will run there with the microphone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your great speech about all the aspects. My name is Mara-Liisa Permikangas, representing Finnish textile and fashion. And one of the last points you put to the table was really the fair trade. And I think that from all sustainability, circularity point of view, that is the most crucial issue. And I do hope that now when the citizens' initiatives comes to the parliament to be discussed, Grääsätalous kuriin.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
That sounds great. So I do hope that you could show the courage, what was mentioned already here, what the French parliament did. So the ultra-fast fashion law is going very fast in France, and they will decide, maybe they did already, but it has been discussed at the first stage. Now it has been discussed in the Commission or analyzed from the point of view of the EU regulation, and now the second phase will be in the national parliament. It is not very, how would I put it? It's not very successful from the point of view of developing EU internal market, that every member state starts to get their own regulation. But if this is the only way to act, then that is the way to act, because we are losing that much every day, that people are ready to pay €6 per item when it comes to clothing. Everybody knows that cannot be the real price in the sake of sustainability, in the sake of circularity, and we are ruining the European industry. I think that this is now the point that Finnish Parliament will show their strength to change this thing.
Thank you. Was that a question or more than like a comment?
If I may still answer, as I shouted, sorry for interrupting your question, we're taking the initiative tomorrow to the parliament, and then I think it will go to a few different committees, and then it takes as long as it takes. I would guess something between 6 and 12 months, but there is a possibility to push through new law in 1 or 2 years. it won't be, well, this is only my personal view, but I think it won't be as fast as it should be, because the same challenges we're witnessing EU level are probably going to at least slow a bit us here in Finland. But I do not know any politician who would say that are against it here. So it's pretty much, I believe it's more about if it's possible to do so in our national regulation, or if someone thinks that the outcome should be that we're only trying to pressure, for example, Commission to give their legislation proposals before. And you mentioned also France. We went there with the environmental committee maybe half year ago. And we were also asking about the same theme, and they unfortunately told us that it is very tricky to push forward because they have given already one proposal, but because they do have 2 chambers, it's stuck in between those, and they didn't have an estimation about when the law would be in force, but hopefully soon. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Very good to hear that it's in the parliament tomorrow, because I know that you should be there already. So thank you for being here, Pinja.
Thank you for having me.
I'm good courage.
We want to still offer a short overview of the policy landscape that is coming, and Emilia gave this to us. So this is roughly the circularity of textile that should happen and where you can affect. And these are all the legislation that is coming or in the process in EU level. And we were thinking that this is quite much to take here in the seminar. So when we have the collaboration break, Emilia Jedda will be there, that you can talk with her. She knows as much as you can know about this.
So in simple words, it's like a small triangle. It's the circular transition, it's the consumer shift and behavior, and also the digitalization, which is coming up in the EU level. So it's interesting times that we are actually living now. But thank you, and before the next presentation, we are here to meet and greet. So let's make a short introduction round. Inga, so you have made the invitation, so you probably know all of the people here. But now you can take a round, look around who you are, and you can find these people later in our collaboration break. So raise your hand if you have been part of the Telaketju from the very beginning.
Okay.
Amazing.
Wow. Then maybe raise your hand if you represent a company. Yes.
Yes.
What about academia and research? Maybe a little bit more from academia side. How about how many of you have reused or recycled clothes that you're wearing at the moment? Okay, wow. So many of us here.
Is there someone who is not representative from academia, research, or company? Okay.
Nice to have you here as well.
Nice to have you here as well. I know some of you that are also the funding and also incubators for the business. Raise your hand if you're from Finland. And who is from outside of Finland? So we have the international guests as well. Okay, so this was the short introduction, so please remember that when we have the collaboration break. And now let's us introduce to There's Akule. She's really giving an interesting thoughts. And she's from Latvia, and she will discuss about international collaboration from textile circularity, highlighting connections between the Nordic Baltic region, the EU, and global consumption links to Africa, Asia, and US. So you're presenting the global view and the international aspects today. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. First, a little note, maybe as a transit from the previous speaker and the content that we discussed, and also the statement from our audience about the changes that we sometimes want to see yesterday or tomorrow, and it's very understandable that also in textile circularity we want to see bigger steps, better decisions, faster solutions, practical behavioral changes. And I'm also one of those people who comes from an NGO, Save the World kind of perspective. I want to do better, leave the planet in a better shape, etc. And it is very understandable, I think, for most of us as humans to be this impatient sometimes. And then what helps me is to not just look at some things that I'll touch upon in my presentation of the progress that we've made together, but also maybe take a bigger picture and remember that we came from caves. There were times when, you know, would a woman stand in front in an audience and tell you about research and international cooperation work that she's managed to do. And I was personally born in Soviet Union, so I mean, look at where I am now. So I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves of this bigger picture and maybe be somehow consoled by that and not give up. And that is also what my title stands for, because when Inka asked me to be here, she said, we want something inspirational. And probably, because I know a little bit of the context in the region and also Finnish situation, where both Finland and Latvia can be proud that we started separate collection of textiles in January 2023. So definitely in my work, I have the chance to be proud of that and also really see where we have managed to go from that day. And despite that fact that we started, we also know what kind of challenges this early start has brought, because the EPR is not there and the investments are delayed, etc., etc. So that's why my title says, do not give up on international cooperation in textile circularity, and also, of course, on the national level of the work that we all do. And just a little thing before I go into my actual presentation. Green Liberty is an environmental NGO, so as I already said, I represent the Save the World sector, and we work mainly in Latvia, but also do some international work, and this is where my content then comes in. This is the outline that I prepared for, and I was told that I have 20 minutes, and I expect our hosts to kind of sign if I go overboard. I have 15 slides, but you know, people who are willing to save the world and have a great passion for this topic, you know, we can lose track of time sometimes, so I hope they will help me to not go overboard. So I will focus on three aspects already mentioned. Progress in Europe, perspectives from the US, where I had the pleasure to be a Fulbright scholar last fall and actually look at what the US is doing in this field. And then the return back to home, the Nordic Baltic cooperation, where I will invite you for a concrete collaboration that is coming up soon. So let's start with the progress in Europe. You're all experts here, so I will not take time to actually say much about this. But the separate collection, the EPR that comes in force soon, and also the European Commission strategy to make the textile sector more sustainable and circular, where we have the fast fashion is out of fashion by 2030 goal, quote from the actual document. These, to my mind, are all very clear demonstrations that this is how we actually make progress. And when you look at it, this document on the strategy, it came in 2022. That's 3 years ago. And yes, we can be impatient about some of the things that we would want to see, as I said in the beginning. But when you look at the bigger picture, and we saw the slides before I came up on the stage on the big map of many things that on EU level are being discussed and being proposed and being consulted on right now with regard to textiles. It is actually difficult for a non-expert to follow all these things, but it's not to confuse us. The point is the work is intense. The focus on textile industry is really there, and I think we can be, as Europeans, proud of that. And this is part of international cooperation. I mean, the EU, this is where we as countries come together and we make decisions together and we shape these decisions together. And yes, it's not easy, and yes, sometimes it's very slow, but I mean, do we find a better way? We haven't found a better way. This is the best way. And even if not all of us here are in decision-making process, I sometimes do with my work when I develop a study or find something interesting, well, valuable that should be put in the decision-making process. I was also in Latvia part of the designing the EPR for textiles, which actually was introduced in Latvia in July last year. So in that way, I may be part of the decision-making network, but all of us are part of the decision-making network because we vote for the people who are there in these roles, who then take these decisions and see what we have managed in that respect. This is another slide that most of you, I'm sure, know about, and there's only one message here as well. I mean, EU is not just producing documents that some of us are reading to the very last detail. They're also EU, we as EU countries are investing in the right direction. So trying to find the solutions, trying to support the skills. So Ecosystex, as something that started from 20 projects, is already in 70 plus projects because also the skills sector is involved. Isn't that something that we can be proud of? As EU citizens, we are really not just delivering policy papers, we're also investing, and I'm also feeling very honored to be part of some of these projects that are trying to look for solutions together with scientists, practitioners, policymakers. Now, let us move to America. So this is one slide about the difference in the worlds that we live in Europe and in the US, where the consumption and textile waste is 3 times of that that we have here on average in Europe, right? Even in Europe, we have quite some differences when it comes to consumption and textile waste patterns, and for sure, when we will be through with the first actual year of separate collection in all EU, we will have interesting statistics. I am sure Pirjo and everyone else in research is really waiting for it. When we will have actual data to say this is how much we waste and this is how much we consume. But in America, it's really 3 times more. And my belief, not just because I was in Washington, D.C. last autumn and talked to many Americans who are also passionate about this Save the World sector in textiles, if we don't bring the largest market in the world also on this path, maybe not tomorrow with the current administration, but at some point, then we will not be able to really save the world. If only Europe as a small, big, but in comparison smaller consumer of textiles will do the work, and we do not manage to bring the biggest players like the largest consumer society that US is on the board, we will not manage. We'll need to also get them there. And of course, as I mentioned, the current president may not be so interested in Paris Agreement, and also maybe not so much interested in research, where EU's increased funding to actually sustain cooperation with the US might actually be helpful. Maybe this is another topic that Europe and American researchers can work on, try to find these solutions also in textile circularity. And for sure, I can tell you that there are people in America that have passion and actually do things. I was lucky to be there at the same time when California became the first US state to adopt textile EPR. So I didn't even know that they were doing this before I actually went there. That's one of the nice things of going and being a scholar. So they have, as you see on the slide, adopted the law. So it's already in force, and there are these steps that you see by 2030, the preparation steps, including factors for applying a co-modulation fee that they will need to work on, and also exempting second-hand textiles to help reuse sector. And they are not the only ones. New York State also wants to follow the EPR for textiles. These are the biggest states in US, so the bigger consumers, the biggest polluters in such a sense. Also, in 2022, Massachusetts, another state, banned textiles from disposal. So in a way, they're also doing the same thing that we're doing in Europe. So separate collection, which of course you know what it can, without it we can't do circularity, right? Several US states are discussing bills to manage the end-of-life carpets. For those who have been to America, you probably know and remember that it's very popular to have carpet from wall to wall. So carpets is a very popular product. And something like this is already introduced in California in 2011, so several states want to follow up. Also, there are discussions about how to not do a double taxation on second-hand textiles. 1,300 signatures may not sound a lot, but they are active. The same kind of debates that take place in Europe also take place in America. And then I want to show you 5 inspirational US companies that do similar things that we are discussing here in Europe. Eileen Fisher is one company that's not just working with sustainable natural fibers, also more classical designs over time. They have, since 2009, operated a program to take back its garments from consumers and also really transparently communicate about what this actually means, what they're doing with those garments that they have taken back. So in the 14 years since the program has been operational, they collected 2 million garments, which, and I find this very positive, and the company is itself communicating that these 2 million garments is just around 5% of what Eileen Fisher has made in the last 39 years. I think it's a very interesting detail, because often companies are communicating, look, this is what we do, but do it in the bigger picture. Put it in the bigger picture on your overall operations, how much this is. So they're saying this is just 5%. So out of the collected garments, they have resold them, they are warehoused, and also they have been donating them to organizations like Dress for Success, that is supporting unemployed women, so they get the right clothes to go to the work interviews, etc. And Uncommon Threads, that's an NGO that is boosting women's self-esteem through clothing. And they are providing all these details, saying that 15% were unrecorded in early earlier initial, let's say, steps of the project, so probably they were too busy taking the garments and not really reporting on what's going where, but they're saying no take-back garment is sent to landfill, okay? Because they are, as you see in this nice visual that's from their website, also creating art pieces, bags and canvases that can be put on your wall from those garments that cannot be reused. Another one you know for sure, Patagonia is a US company, very focused on repairs. They're doing lots of great things also to their own customers, mostly free of charge repairs, but also helping them how to maintain the clothes so that they can be in use for longer. There's also a very good do-it-yourself guide for repairs, so they just focused on that. And recently I was in Netherlands in the Circular Textile Days, where I had a chance to meet actually a spin-off in a way, a company that's actually operating in Europe, in a United Repair Center. It's operating in Netherlands and UK, and it was born out of Patagonia's request for help to repair their garments. So they couldn't manage it anymore. They said, look, help us with that, and this company was born, and in the 3 years of its existence, they have managed to repair 75,000 items with a repair cost ranging from 10 to 130 euros. And they're in this conversation with a company person in this conference, I heard that this person who wanted this expensive repair, and in this case, they are themselves paying for it, the person said, look, I mean, I still want this garment even if it is going to be costing so much, even though some people may tell me that this jacket you can buy also like new one for a similar price, you know. So there is this audience that also is very focused on trying to keep their garments, maybe also for emotional durability, you know. You love your jacket, you still want to keep it, you rather have it repaired instead of buying a new one. So the company wants to repair, how they say, the clothing industry by providing the repair services to companies and also create jobs predominantly to those who are distant from the labor market. So they're actually training people to be able to repair clothes. Let's go back to America, a few more companies. ThreadUp is one of the largest resale platforms for apparel, shoes, and accessories in the world. It was established in the US in 2009. For 3 years, managed to also work in Europe, but I guess didn't work so well, so now they're back operating only in the US. So this is basically a service where a person, anyone who has clothes that can be resold, they send it to the company, and they're doing everything to be so that it's actually resold, and then the person gets the cash or credit for another purchase. So interestingly, this company only works with women and kids clothing, because men are consuming less and are using less their clothes for longer, so they decided, it's a business decision, to not work on those segments. And their website says that it has processed 172 million of second-hand items, and in 2022 they had over 1,700 employees working on this whole resale sector. Then we have Wrangler, which made line of jeans from recycled fibers with 50% post-industrial, 50% post-consumption mechanically recycled cotton blend. I was really interested when I was talking to Sarah Coulter, US Program Director at Accelerating Circularity. They were helping with this project, and she was sharing insights on how difficult it actually was to source the needed material, 100% cotton, white, post-consumption jersey. So the first time when she made the calls trying to get the material, there were people laughing at her, people telling her, like, you know, And then in the end, one person said, okay, let me try. And when the person actually succeeded, they started marketing, that company started marketing, you know, contact me if you want the most beautiful post-consumer recycling feedstock, because we can do it, right? So very inspirational story. And final US company, Amber Cycle, based in Los Angeles, established in 2015. They are working with polyester, fiber-to-fiber recycling of end-of-life textiles. They, in 2023, signed a 3-year agreement with Inditex Group, I'm sure you know, owns brands like Zara and Massimo Dutti, to buy recycled fabric for over 70 million euro. So given that currently the absolute majority of recycled polyester comes from, in the textile items, comes from recycled plastic bottles, this for sure is another inspiring example on what is possible, not just on European soil. And now, final slide. I'm looking at the hosts, I'm all right with the time. Going back to our region where we come from, and as I said, and also we mentioned in the first part, we can be proud of. So an initiative that is supported by the Nordic Council of Ministers that I'm currently working on, we had one event and we will plan another one very soon, because we believe that this textile circularity, and I sense that there's some determination or similar approach also in the Baltic second-hand network, that these textiles, they're traveling across the board. They also require a regional look. And there is this link in textile production between our countries, the Baltic, the Nordic countries. Also the sorting, I'm sure that you know, lots of sorting happening in the Baltic states. Sweden, for example, shipping large volumes in the Baltic states, especially Lithuania, but also some of it is in Estonia and Latvia. And of course, a lot of reuse. The previous speaker said that Finland is among the top people with regard to reuse. I'm interested on how, because when I look at Latvian data, we know for sure that 1/3 of textile consumption in Latvia is secondhand. So if Finland is better than Latvia, I want to know. So probably it's per capita secondhand flows, but that doesn't mean consumption. It can be, you know, sorted and then sent somewhere else. But there are all these links that are in the region, and we believe that we need to do much more to actually foster this cooperation, to use the potential that's there, to maybe see what's missing in which country, in which region, how can we strengthen it so that we actually build this cooperation that actually delivers increased textile circularity within the region. It doesn't make much sense for a lot of our material to end up in Africa and Asia, as we know that after use, a lot of European clothes, including our clothes from this region, end up in those markets. We should try our best to keep as much as possible here and to do the best that we can to actually capture the added value here. So if we cooperate, also taking into account the textile manufacturing that's a bit more prominent in Baltic countries, which also means the repair skills might be there more than in the Nordic countries. But then in Nordic countries, you have invested so much in textile recycling and also automated sorting. These things, if we collaborate, we can really achieve miracles. And we have already a strong and emerging ecosystem of projects, also research institutions, collaboration networks across EU projects like the Baltic Secondhand or Textended that me and Pirjo we work on. So there are these networks, these knowledge holders, these actual practical solution finders, and why not invest it in our region first and see what we can do, not just in Finland or Latvia or the Baltic states or the Nordics, but put the Nordic and Baltic together. And actually, this links into one concrete thing, which is I invite everyone to make note of the fact that in this Nordic Council of Ministers project, we plan to have a regional conference on textile circularity covering Nordics and Baltics. From what I know, nothing like this has happened before, so we hope to be the first. It's going to be in Riga. First half of 2026, and it will be linked to Nordic Baltic Textile Transition Group that probably some of you know, born out of the Nordic Circular Hotspot in the Nordic Circle Summit in Nuuk in Greenland in November. It's going to be established, so it's basically a network of practitioners, academia, NGOs that on a regular level meet to discuss and find ways to actually work together. We have lots of meetings, that's not our problem. We need to get ways to, from ideas, get into actual doing and then get the needed results. So if you're also interested in not just Finnish textile circularity and making the life better in Finland, which is very, very valid point, and we should work on it. If you want to be also doing a bit more in the Nordic-Baltic cooperation and actually see what's happening, I really invite you to find me in the break or on LinkedIn. But otherwise, I say very big thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Dace. It's really nice to hear the global points of view and examples. Dace already gave an invitation to come and talk, but before that, we can have a few questions, so we have time for that. And actually, I'd like to ask you, if I may be the first one, what do you think is the most important thing in building up the collaboration and cooperations like this?
Well, I think the beginning is filling the gaps of knowledge, because a lot of our conversations take place on the national level, or let's say Baltic level, and then Nordic level. That's what I've seen when I look at this passion of mine, which is the Nordic-Baltic cooperation, for example. So we don't actually know what's happening. That's why when we designed this initiative where we will have the conference, first step for us was to build a helicopter view. So what do we know? What are countries specializing on? What kind of projects have actually been viable in the sense that it's not just a startup that had a nice idea, but a year later you don't hear anything about it. So we actually built this helicopter view, and we're going to have a publication to help to consolidate this knowledge so that we, from that first step, can then look, okay, this is the situation now, this is how we have built and developed, this is where we have invested right now, there are these gaps, so how can we fill these gaps? But first is the knowledge, and I think actually looking at the region as a region to see it as a perspective, because if we're all happy in our own home and let's do this small thing, but we heard also from the first speech, textiles travel, our work is across the borders, so we should really make use of these opportunities, not to just look at the national level.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions from the audience? You really emptied the...
Exhausted their attention span. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you giving us sort of like inspiring view that we shouldn't give up, because there are a lot of things to do. So now we have a half an hour collaboration break, and we plan it so that please, many of you know each other, but try to talk with someone that you don't know. It would be good to sort of like make the ecosystem wilder again. And then we have 3 topics that we thought that if you really want to sort of like talk with Dage, that you follow her and sort of like what is the Nordic Baltic Textile Network about. So I think it would be really good. And then,
as I mentioned when we were showing what's coming from the EU legislation, so if you have any questions or doubts, or you just want to ponder what is this EU legislation, Emilia would be there So please go and talk with Emilia. And then I have also one topic that I'd like to discuss with you. Next week we are going to Tallinn to speak about textile circularity in a systemic change conference. And I would need some advice for that. So if you have a kind of like good view of the systemic change that needs to happen in the circularity of textiles, I would be delighted to talk with you. Of course, it's really nice to talk with old friends and see you, because some of you haven't seen for a few years. So please use the time of the break well. And we'll be back here at 3 o'clock, so it's approximately half an hour break. If there is still coffee, you can still drink it, and the fruits, and the toilets are when you go outside the door, and far right there is an elevator and stairs to the level 0. There you can find the toilets. Thank you for the first part.
Yeah, thanks.
And for the online audience, you just hang around there. We'll be back at 3 o'clock.
Do we have everyone in the hall? There's some couple of people coming in. 30 minutes are getting so quickly. There is never enough time for collaboration and networking. I hope you really had good break and talk with old and new friends and find a little bit collaboration thoughts. And I really enjoyed the enthusiastic voices. The acoustic is not the best for the talks in the hall, but it's a beautiful place to sort of meet up. So let's wait a couple of minutes that we have everyone present. No problem. Welcome, welcome to the second part. So a couple of minutes left as well, so we have the new people here. But we can continue with the presentations now. So as I promised in the beginning, we will now hear more about the Baltic secondhand, what it's all about, and the reuse business. And our dear colleague from Laura, Salla Kuuluvainen, the project leader from Finland, will share the insights of the textile reuse and how the project has been collaborated between the companies. And we have already collaborated between the Baltic Seas and Nordic countries. So I think it's a very good example here. So thank you, Salla, and please.
Hi everyone, my name is Salla Kuuluvainen, and I will tell you some insights from the Baltic Secondhand project about redesigning textile business in the Central Baltic region. We have been running this project now for 3 years with the support from the Interreg Central Baltic Programme, and our partners have been Laura University of Applied Sciences, Turku University of Applied Sciences, Sustainability InnoCenter from Sweden, Tallinn Business Incubators, and Latvian Chamber of Commerce. What we have realized in this project is that every piece of fabric tells a story. Like our hosts asked from us in the beginning, what are you wearing today? What does it tell us about each other that many of us were wearing second-hand clothing today? So it is really an important thing for us, and it carries a lot of meaning, a lot of identity. But as we all know, many of these stories unfortunately end too soon. I think we all know in this room that the textile industry, unfortunately, is one of the most polluting industries globally. And also here in Finland, we buy way too many clothes. So we buy 38 pieces of clothing instead of 5 or 0 pieces. And for me personally, in this project, I have been for the first time able to visit these places where this clothing is sorted and recycled. And emotionally to see all those pieces of clothing, all those piles of stuff. It's very tough. So you kind of realize that it is a lot of things that we are creating in this world, and how can we do something about that? So in the Baltic Secondhand Project, we kind of set out to, of course, solve this huge issue or problem also in this region. So we have been supporting companies and organizations to create new circular business models, services, and solutions. Since, of course, the global second-hand market is also expected to grow, and it provides huge opportunities for businesses. So in this project, we sort of had these questions in mind that we set out to explore. How might we create products or services that retain the value of textiles? How might we extend the life cycle of textiles, for example, by using digital solutions? Or what are the biggest challenges and opportunities for collaboration in the textile reuse chain? And we set out to create a design process, interweaving the design process with circularity in all of its stages. So we used the double diamond model from Design Council, a fairly common design model, to create new solutions. At the start of the project, we did a lot of research to find out what are the actual challenges and opportunities that the companies in this region experience, but also how do the consumers experience this topic in the region. We analyzed and synthesized that data, and from those insights, we then started a collaboration process. We invited companies from this region to ideate circular business concepts with us. So we had many workshops, first ideating with over 40 companies, textile and otherwise, in this region, with the topics of customer engagement, service development, digital service development, and collaboration. And from that vast number of ideas that was created in those workshops, some ideas, the best ones, hopefully, were chosen into a prototyping and testing phase. And then even more concrete pilots were created out of those. And I will tell you a little bit more about the pilots soon. So the idea was to create solutions that will increase reuse, decrease waste, and decrease consumption in this area. So here we can see a nice framework created by my lovely colleagues, our hosts, Inka and Johanna. So here we can kind of see how increased use, decreased waste, and decreased consumption can manifest within the redesigned textile business. So we can see with the increasing reuse, for example, repair services, upcycling, and second-hand. Within the decreasing waste, we can see designing new products from the waste, working with waste management, for example, with side streams and recycling. And within the decreasing consumption, we of course need to educate the end user. And here we can see our pilots from the project. So we have been working with companies, creating, for example, with Alpaca, an Estonian brand. We have been creating a repair service with them. With Kierrätyskeskus from Finland, we have been creating a low-value textile ecosystem. And with O-Design, a Latvian company, we have created cat furniture out of recycled textiles. So we have been working with very different levels of the textile kind of ecosystem or the value chain. So we have created worked with both small and larger companies and very different products and services. Here's an example of a work that we did with Reima, which is a very well-known Finnish children's wear brand. So we helped them develop their second-hand web shop. They had experienced a few roadblocks, for example, the fact that not enough people wanted to sell back their used clothing to their web shop. So we have been looking into how we could improve that web shop. We have used focus groups and customer journey mapping to improve some usability and functionalities in this web shop. And we can already see these improvements in use on their web page. We have also helped some organizations called UF from Finland and Humana from Estonia, second-hand operators, in organizing a marketing campaign that is supposed to help people donate more clothing to them. So we have created marketing materials and social media materials, and this sorting tool that you can see live on the UF website. So this tool will help the consumer to understand where should I bring my piece of used clothing. So, for example, if there's some small defects in it, the tool will help you to understand whether it can be still donated to, for example, UF or another place, or whether it should be recycled. So this is a tool to help the consumer and also encourage more donations, since sometimes also those clothes that aren't in perfect condition can still be donated. This is a small company from Sweden called Gold Atelier. We really helped them launch their company, and they are doing repair services for vintage and luxury items, and offering those services to consumers, and also trying now to expand into B2B business, where luxury brands could purchase these repair services from them. So this has also been an interesting collaboration together with this small company in Sweden called Gold Atelier. Another example from Sweden, this is called Remap Stockholm. You can also find it online. So this is a map that showcases kind of second-hand and circular textile companies in Sweden, Stockholm, and you will be able to find some nice stores through this map. In addition to the pilots, we have also done a fair bit of research in our project. This is one of the research outcomes or results. So we created these consumer personas that are based on extensive consumer research in this region. So we explored motivations and challenges and needs that consumers have in this region, and we created 3 different personas. Then this is meant to be a tool for companies to understand what kind of services can be created to fulfill the needs of the consumers. And of course, during this project, we organized lots of events, I think probably closer to 20 to 30 workshops and other types of co-creative events, inviting lots of different stakeholders, of course the companies, but also different types of other organizations within the network, our students, basically also other types of people who would be interested in solving these challenges. So this event was a design jam, so kind of like a co-creative hackathon, where people from the 4 participating countries solved issues or problems brought by some leading textile companies in this region. And we worked simultaneously in 5 different physical locations, online and hybrid, so people were able to connect to this event from many different places and create solutions together. So in the Baltic Secondhand Project, we co-created circular textile solutions with 50+ companies. I think the number is 60 at the moment, in Estonia, Finland, Latvia, and Sweden. We prototyped 11 different solutions and tested those solutions. We piloted 10 solutions. And we have also published 30+ articles and blog posts and other materials about circular textile transformation, and those are all accessible through our website. So what have we learned about designing for circular transformation for textile business? So So in a way, designing for circularity is like gardening. You just need to support what grows naturally. So we have noticed that companies really are interested in joining these processes and creating these sustainable solutions. Often the problem lies with resources or time, so that's why only a small push is often needed or a small support to create these solutions. Also, as designers, we need to be aware that within these processes, a design process can be fairly unpredictable, so we need to cultivate a lot of pilots, a lot of solutions, a lot of collaborations, because not everything will work out. So then we will have something that will always kind of leave out from that process and something that will then maybe not succeed. So we need to also embrace that uncertainty in the design process. And I think everyone here knows that collaboration is key to circular transformation. But I think in this project we also learned that we also need to invite those operators who we don't traditionally see as the circularity operators. So sometimes the key to a solution might be an operator who is not from textile business or not seen as a traditional circularity operator, for example, a logistics company. So also those need to be included in the co-creation process. And also, sometimes it might be useful to revisit old collaborations or old ideas. So maybe some kind of a collaboration on ecosystem building was started 10 years ago, and it didn't work out at that time. But the time is changing all the time, and circularity is becoming a bigger kind of movement and a bigger force, and so the time might be ripe now to do something that has been tried 10 years ago. So it might be a good idea to kind of also revisit those ideas and those collaborations from the older times and see if the time would be better now. And of course, we need to base everything on the facts, so understanding both the challenges for companies and customers are the starting point for the sustainable solutions. So as the project continues, so we would like to still invite anyone who would like to collaborate with us to continue discussions together with us or the companies participating in our project. We very much welcome any collaborations at this stage. And we are still working in the Baltic second-hand project until the end of February next year. So thank you. You can see all of our materials on our website or also follow us on LinkedIn to find more about our project.
Thank you, Salla. A lot has happened in the past few years with the reuse sector in this area. And well, this is the final seminar of the project, but we still have half a year to go. We have time for the audience questions, but again, before I let anybody else to ask anything, I'd like to ask, how has this knowledge that you gained through this project maybe affected you as a consumer?
Yeah, well, I think I have become more aware that there is lots of really kind of nice and interesting new services created within this second-hand kind of business sector, and I have been very interested in trying those out myself, so it's also been a great experience. But simultaneously also the first experience that I've had the possibility to visit these sorting centers, and it's really like to understand the amount of stuff there. It's also kind of horrifying at the same time. So both of these things are true simultaneously for me, I think.
Yeah, thank you. How about the audience? Do you have questions for Salla about the project or the reuse or something else? Again, emptying speech from Salla. Thank you again. And our next speaker is probably familiar for most of us, Pirjo Heikkilä, as I promised, will give a speech as well. She's also been here since the beginning, and everything that has something related to the circularity of textiles or especially recycling, Pirjo knows it all. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Inga, for this introduction, and I'm very happy to be here and tell what has been happened in Finland in last 10 years. It's kind of scary that I should know everything. I hope I know much, and I still have more to learn, because then we need to do more research and more collaboration. Okay. I'm working as the VTT, Technical Research Center of Finland, and my focus is a little bit research-oriented, but I also like to take a look a little bit on what's going on in legislation and schedules and those kind of things. And yeah, last 10 years. Let's start with what happened in the ecosystem building from regulation point of view. We started our first projects in 2015, and then at that time Commission has adopted Circular Economy Action Plan. There was plan for landfilling of organic waste soon, and then we get information that yes, separate collection of textile waste will be starting in this year, but the kind of directive came during our projects. There were also the new Circular Economy Action Plan, where textiles was mentioned as a focus. And related to that, there was the EU strategy for sustainable and circular textiles coming a couple of years ago, like already mentioned. And that's mentioned that we started separate collection of textile waste in Finland, 23, just like Latvia and some other countries. And yeah, so that has been happening. But then there was also this extended producer responsibility, which kind of happened right after the separate collection started in Finland, which changed a little bit, and we are still waiting what's happening with that in practice. But then now also whole Europe is collecting textile waste. But if we look then from the research projects point of view, like I said, I'm a little bit research-oriented because, yes, I'm a researcher. We started the projects 2015. There was two projects which are not kind of yet Telaketju, but Telaketju network and collaboration started as a collaboration of these two projects. Relooping Fashion, coordinated by VTT, and Textile 2.0, which was a collaboration with Turku University Applied Sciences, LSJH, and other actors in Turku area. And then we started building projects together, and Telaketju name got born. And in the first phase, we have Telaketju Tekes, which was kind of collaborative project with companies, funded by Tekes, currently Business Finland. And because in textile ecosystem, there are so many actors who are not businesses, which cannot be funded by Tekes, which was kind of business-oriented. We also got funding from Ministry of Environment, so Telaketju YM here, but also then LSJA applied additional funding for building the collecting, sorting, recycling ecosystem. So at the moment we had 4 projects running together with name Telaketju. When the first big collaborative research and company project ended, we applied Telaketju 2. BF is, of course, we are best friends, but it's coming from Business Finland acronym. And then after that, there was the idea of how to study both business models and then on this more technical stuff, but we continued with 2 projects, Tela Value and PaaS pilots, which is product as a service pilots. And now there is Baltic secondhand, and then a couple of VTT projects running, which are directly kind of continuing then things what were did in those Telaketju collaboration. But of course, this is not all. But here we can kind of see phases, predecessors, first, second, third phase, and then the legacy projects. I invented that kind of terminology without asking others, but I see them as a kind of legacy of this, not anymore using the name Telaketju as such, but a kind of continuation direct. But of course, we do have also others. So there has been VDT project with the textile recycling parallel to these activities. I don't go in the details. I can tell you more, and information can be found actually from Telaketju website as well as earlier reports. But there has been a lot of activities, and they are not stopping here. But I want to little bit kind of also remember and what was happening in the earlier projects, and now I focus those which I was coordinating, so the Tekes and Business Finland projects, but it's also a little bit reflects what was studied in other projects in the same phases. So in the first phase, we did the work with Ethika and also other companies. We made the model of how the circular textile ecosystem look like. Nice picture, Paula, with the Ethika's plan about showing the product cycles in green and then the recycling part in blue there. It was actually kind of also get some prizes and attention also internationally. VTT's role in this was to take the technology for recycling cotton from lab scale to pilot scale. And we studied that, but made the kind of demonstration with the wider scope, how that could be happening in practice. So collecting the materials, sorting them, processing them, spinning them into fibers, and then we also wanted to do clothes and have reusable packaging for storing them. Of course, we had some problems and we didn't get the whole thing covered, but anyway, we get clothing, and they were then presented as well. But yeah, we focused on certain technologies, looking what ecosystems should look like, and at the same time, Textile 2.0 was studying, collecting, sorting, and recycling as well. And then we started the first phase of Telaketju, and I think Inka has been drawing this picture. Yes. But it shows that we focus there mostly on recycling, how to collect, how to sort, and how to recycle. So one aspect of circular economy is recycling, important, but not only one. When we moved on to the second phase, we looked circular economy in the wider scope. So we started looking on the business models more. What are circular and sustainable products and materials? We, of course, continued looking and supporting recycling, but we looked on also how textile companies in Finland can look on sustainability issues. We made quick trials and demonstrations, but also consumers have a very important role in textile ecosystem. Like shown in the pictures, they are uppermost on the model picture. So studied how the consumers are to be involved and what they think about the circularity. As we moved on the third phase, Tela Value project then shows a little bit that we start looking not only the circular economy, but also looking the sustainable production, new raw materials, how to combine bio-based materials. Finland is good with that. We have a lot of forest. There has been innovation in cellulosic fibers, how to combine different kind of raw materials, recycled and bio-based, as a raw material for textile manufacturing. They also continued the study of the business models and use phase. Also then recovery of materials from the use phase. And then we looked fiber-to-fiber recycling, but also recycling to other high-value applications. Because in Finland, again, we are strong in technical textiles. We have a lot of technical materials, and they are not necessarily right to put them back to clothing textiles, but something else. So also these other applications were considered. So widening the scope, recycling, circular economy, whole sustainable production, use, and in that sense. So we have increased knowledge of the circular textile ecosystem in very wide range, and I will not go through all the results. They are so many, but I just giving some examples showing that we have looked all these different aspects. For example, consumers. So we have been studying how consumers consider this kind of clothing made from recycled materials produced in Europe instead of Far East and so on. And in general, consumers have very positive attitude towards those. They are worried a little bit that they might be too expensive. But yeah, they are interested. However, they are also worried that recycling can have environmental impacts, which is true, so we have to consider when to recycle and rather keep products in use as second-hand methods. Also have studied consumers' interest towards new business models. So again, they are interested, but a little bit worries there as well. But those can be solved. Peer-to-peer is a little bit more frightening for consumers, but when we have clothing libraries or that kind of things, might be more interesting. But you can find the linkage, the full reports through the links, and I will be sharing the slides with anybody. Actually, they are already online already, VTT publication portal. We looked on the different circular strategies. And you have also probably all seen these phased hierarchies, so prevention, preparing for reuse, recycling, recover, disposal. But maybe you are also aware of our strategies. So these are I think one of the first who explained these were Potting et al. And we can kind of see that there are more strategies for prevention and preparing for reuse before going to recycling. But we can see that production, use phase, there are a lot of strategies to adopt before we go in the recycling itself. However, recycling is something we need to solve because sometimes life cycle of a product will come to an end anyway. But before that, also we have done a lot of research regarding business models, also designing for circularity, not going into details, but showing these are circular business models from OECD report, and then there are general circular eco-design principles adopted from multiple sources, and we can see that when somebody starts to adopt circular business models, they also should think of eco-design principles. So many things go hand in hand. Also recycling mentioned there, circular supply and design using recycled materials. So this is holistic approach to go there, starting of course with some point and then moving on the business more and more circular. And then at some point, the value chains or how the clothes are looking and going through within their lifetime, they are different loops, and also all these strategies can be applied compared to linear model. And we have been studying how those are environmentally viable, different options. But yeah, recycling is, of course, then an option when we cannot anymore reuse or use the materials for repurposing or something like that. And depending on the different types, also where of the materials, we have these different options. fiber mechanical recycling to recycle fibers, but if they are also worn out, we have to go deeper into structure to polymer or monomer level, but there are different methods for that. Deeper we go, more we need to process, more pricey, more impacts on environment, and so on. These are some of the illustrations of the demonstrations done in Telaketju. There are also tens of demonstrations done in other projects as well, but these were the most previous one. And these and others can be found from the demo gallery on our webpage. I also mentioned those different methods. They have different strengths and different weaknesses, so this is kind of general level evaluation. Fiber mechanical recycling is not increasing the quality, but for example, it's easiest to obtain economically viable scale with that. While others are going deeper in the chemical structure of fibers, they are process industries. They are done in the larger factories in big processes. So they have different strengths, different weaknesses, and we have that kind of information collected in the reports. But with all that, we can also see that we need to have this kind of vision how these cycles are optimized. So we did that work, started in Telaketju project. We want to keep quality and value of materials and products as high as possible, as long as possible, keeping the costs and impacts as low as possible, and of course do it in a safe way. And in that sense, we kind of created a vision that we should have, of course, just like in the base framework, look on the reuse, remanufacturing first, and then really evaluate the economic, social, environmental impacts of different models, and also the chemical contents for safety reasons, how to make it safe and sustainably. You are free to upload the report and take a look. But then, a little bit going back to the present and maybe also to the future. My biggest effort at the moment in research is Textended, which Dace already mentioned. So in that project, we have overall objective to make this kind of blueprint master plan for how this is done in how circular systems should look like. So for me, it's kind of continuation from the vision we made in Telaketju to take it further, develop it further. In this ecosystem, products and materials cycling, we are reducing use of primary raw materials, of course, reducing of waste. Our blueprint has a kind of theoretical basis called conceptual framework, which is a model and a tool how these should be organized. So we are kind of optimizing different options. And in general, we are then doing the real scale demonstrator. We are using our model, but also all the technologies, digital tools, which are developed in the process. And we want to show potential to reduce textile waste by 80%. Very ambitious goal. But yeah, we have some interesting modeling work also now done how that can be achieved. But showing a little bit what is the blueprint and the conceptual framework, so textile production, use, recovery, recycling. Our blueprint has these kind of different options, how to reduce waste, how to recycle, and all the other aspects, not everything shown here. And this conceptual framework is here, the model kind of showing where the flows should go. But that was shortly about Textended. Maybe I now look on the Finnish ecosystem again, and let's take a look also what has happened outside of the project, in companies and in activities. So like already mentioned earlier, there has been pilots of separate collection of textile waste in Turku area almost 10 years ago. And then also Infinity Fiber Company has been founded quite early, using the technology which was piloted in relooping fashion. There are also other waste management companies committed to LSAA projects to pilot new areas and committed to the collection. Rester was founded 2019, and then also this fiber mechanical recycling plant was operational a couple of years later. And separate collection of Finland started officially in 23 after all these pilots work. And separate collection rised until then, and then the EPR news came, and there has been some declining. I don't know how deep that is, but unfortunately the collection has been slowed down at the moment. But hopefully in the future new things will be happening. So let's move to future slide. I first look on what's happening in the legislation. So this year, adoption on EPR, external producer responsibility, is now official. Also, we are expecting draft for revision of textile label regulation. I'm not yet know if that has happened or not, but it should be, at least it was planned to have that also this year. With the new textile label regulation, it kind of also enables marking recycled content there, because there was not that kind of concept in the old regulation, so that is relevant. In next year, there should be adoption of the first eco-design regulation measures, and also first act of digital product passport. In 27, EPR system should be in practice, and we should have minimal and simplified digital product passport in use. At least that is what is said in the Commission web pages. And then first product requirements start to apply regarding the eco-design, and then also revised textile labor regulation should be put in practice. DPP is advancing by 2030. We should be advanced DPP in use. And also regarding the eco-design, all textile products placed in EU market are durable, repairable and recyclable. And then I added the whole thing. That is actually statement from EU textile strategy, so I added also other statements which is said on the strategy in there, because that is also the year in that vision. And then full circular DPP is expected in 33. So a lot of things are happening. There is ongoing research at VTT Aalto, Tampere University, and also we have the Baltic Secondhand is going on, but also other university applied sciences are involved in the project, other universities probably as well. And there are proposals submitted to Business Finland and EU also, many of those in this autumn and this year, waiting for results, keeping our fingers up, for example, for chemical recycling of polyester and that kind of things. And what is nice that we can really apply funding for textile-related goals, because there are many veturies which have textiles mentioned in the roadmap. So these veturi programs are big Business Finland things which are leading company, so-called veturi, and then on the roadmap there are possibilities for also others having same vision and same goals to apply funding. And the textiles are mentioned in Beyond Circularity by Valmet, that is ending, but still this year can be applied. Shape by Mirka, and BioCircle to Zero by Andrich, which is one of the new veturies also mentioned in textiles. So there are possibilities to continue looking on those things we don't know yet, things we still need development, and do that. And this is called for companies, especially Business Finland is requiring a very lot of commitment from companies. So companies, if you have research needs, ideas, interest to jointly public funded projects in national and EU level, contact us. Us meaning VTT, universities, applied sciences, universities, the research ecosystem. We can help putting up these collaborative projects. And many companies, organizations here has been involved already in this jointly funded project. It's very nice to find all these pictures having so many logos of Finnish companies and other organizations. And with that, let's congratulate once more 10 years of Telaketju.
Thank you, Pirjo. Remarkable work in 10 years. Actually, we haven't been in the same project for maybe 2 years now. I've been missing you. So great to see you here. Already the Pinja Perholehto was pointing a question for us. What have we achieved in 10 years? Do you think that we have the circular textiles mainstream in 10 years?
I think so. We should have in 10 years, it should be, maybe it's not kind of fully replaced linear, but it should be something that everybody knows and needs more. And there is a trend, increasing trend on second-hand in Finland, maybe not as high as in Latvia, but anyway, there is a big business around that. I have to find the news piece from a couple of weeks ago. It was how big the business is at the moment in Finland, but it has been kind of coming a trend and also lifestyle.
Yes, wow, thank you. Any questions from the audience?
While you are thinking about the question, I have, Pirjo, a question for you. Salla mentioned that we should look to the old ideas, and Tatsu mentioned that don't give up. What would you think about all those 10 years that we are now actually, from the attitude point of the policy point so far, that we should actually revisit the old ideas?
Well, there are many things which have been developed and looked which are not yet applied. So quite many things, and once this extended producer responsibility organization has been built up, we can expect that there are need to kind of build up again things which are now a little bit maybe forgotten about how to collect, how to sort, and what to use with everything. But knowledge is there, so ready to be applied.
Wow. Any other questions?
There, that's it, yes.
One question coming from a different country than Finland. So it's very inspiring to see how actually this whole network was built and how it was born, and that also there is a certain central stage for Business Finland in it. So maybe you can inspire maybe also those other international listeners online on how this was actually possible, that other countries could maybe also learn from, how to bring the interested parties in one conversation and actually enable them with tools to do the practical work. So it's not just some smaller or larger projects like we do in some other countries, but there's the central institution task to actually make sure that this is a success, business-like as well.
Yeah, maybe one of the kind of success factor in the beginning was that we had those two projects which were already done, and Textile 2.0 was organizing study trip to Central Europe to see how it's going there. And there was a person from Tekes at the moment, currently in Business Finland, who was attending the trip. And when people come together and see nice examples, are excited about that, the discussion started. And I think also that the Business Finland involvement on encouraging do build up something like that in Finland. And then when we not acknowledge that not everybody can be funded by Business Finland or Tekes, and we will get also ministries involved. So in that way, it needs to be multiple funding tools probably used also in other countries, because this is so scattered for different kind of stakeholders. But bringing enthusiast people together is the key to start the collaboration, and involving also those funding agencies in the events and in studying something, taking them to learn what is happening in Central Europe.
Yeah, and be together and talk with each other. That's a good way to get all these kind of crazy ideas. On the other field trip, few years later, we invited a ship that would go around the Baltic Sea and collect and process the textiles on the way. That's one idea that we could revisit in the future, I think. But now,
Okay, hey,
thank you, Pirjo.
This afternoon went so fast, and it was really interesting to see different prospects and going back to this 10 years. But we promised to celebrate today for the whole 10 years, and looking forward to see the next 10 years. It will be not that the work is there. And for this case, for the online audience, thank you to be there, and hope this webinar will actually be interesting for other people as well. It has been great to have us here, and we are closing lines soon, because we are having a little bit sparkling here, so maybe you can go and raise the toast and celebrate as well, while we are doing here in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And here on place, we have still time to catch up with old friends, talk with new ones. We have the non-alcoholic bubbles in the hallway, so let's move there and celebrate a little bit for new cooperation and collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ostatko työksesi taloja?